Hey everyone, cool. So I think most people have joined, so we'll get things kicked off. Thank you again to everyone who joined us yesterday. And again, I can see some new faces join us today, so welcome to you guys too. Got good feedback yesterday. We've got a few questions about recordings and slides. We are sending the slides out the day after the event, so we've sent out the 2 previous slides. The recordings are just being edited and put together, and we'll share those at the end of the series. We've got another 3 sessions left, including today, so Thursday and Tuesday. Again, we'll have a presentation today. Feel free to ask questions throughout. If they can answer or I can interrupt during the presentation, I will do. If not, we'll collate them for the end when there'll be a bit of a chance for Q&A. Again, keep this brief and just let's get today started. Today I'm really excited to welcome Mike from 7 Cents. We've worked with Mike for probably just over a year now, using 7 Cents ourselves for our own email, but also for all of our clients. Mike's got a wealth of experience in email marketing, so really excited to see what he has to say. And with that, I'll pass over to you, Mike.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ricky, and definitely appreciate everybody making some time today. Certainly challenging times that we're in, but really the goal, and I think Digital 22 is really leading the pack on this, is providing you with information, really actionable information that you can take away and apply to your marketing, your sales efforts. There are definitely certain industries today that are being impacted. I mean, personally, we're all impacted and in great ways, but there are certain industries that are being impacted more than others. And I take the real stance of today is not the time to really stop all sales and marketing efforts, because if we all take that stance, then the recovery from all of this is just going to take longer and longer. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share out my desktop, and we'll go through a presentation that I put together specifically for this presentation. As Ricky mentioned, if you do have questions along the way, I am more than happy to be, and I hate to use the word interrupted, but interrupted. I always like, if at all possible, these things to be more interactive than anything. Just kind of a quick agenda. I'll give you a quick intro into myself here in a second. We'll take a look at just email overall. Some trends that we're seeing, and especially some trends that we're seeing over the past few weeks. We'll go through a concept that I like to call slow down to speed up, which I think is very relevant to today's business climate, business environment, and quite frankly can be applied to our personal lives as well. And then mastering your email channel. Today, email, it's more important than ever, and it's still the channel that can drive lots and lots and lots of ROI, but it's a channel that most have, I don't want to say abandoned, but they haven't invested as much as things like SEO, or and SEO is an incredibly important thing, or PPC. SEO is our friend. PPC is a little bit of our enemy. And then we put together a number of available resources for you to use as takeaways. Now, as Ricky mentioned, the slides will be available. But those available resources all include links to some things that we'll discuss here in a minute. Ricky, Emily, if any questions come in, I don't know if folks can just chime in, but if they do, just please feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, you can use the chat pane to ask questions. Mike might not be able to see them, so if any come in, I'll make sure to raise them to Mike, and I'll note any down for the end as well.
Cool, thank you. So just a quick introduction on kind of who I am. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of 7sense, and what we are at 7sense is a email delivery optimization and engagement optimization system. What does that really mean? The easiest way to think about it is, if you've done any type of marketing, you understand the principles of search engine optimization. And the reason why you do search engine optimization is so that you can get into the highest position within Google when somebody does a Google search. The goal of 7sense is to do the exact same thing when it comes to email. Our job is to try and get you as high as possible in someone's inbox when they happen to be sitting down to go through their email, so that your email is seen and has a much higher likelihood or probability of being engaged with. Prior to founding the company, which we're about 6 years old now, I was both an individual contributor, meaning I was an individual sales rep, and I was also a sales leader for some very well-known startups that ultimately got acquired. One of those we got acquired for $2.5 billion. The next we got acquired for $1.1 billion. So have really just lived and breathed sales and marketing for a majority of my career. Very early on, I was a software engineer for a biotech company where we mapped the human genome. A lot of experience in startups. It's the world that I love. Small to medium-sized businesses are really the driver of every economy. And so, that's a lot of where my experience comes from. And as weird as it may sound, I love email. And I really love the power of it, because there's so many things that you can do, and it's such a powerful communication channel. It is the only communication channel that's out there that is a completely open system. And for the folks that say, like, hey, is email dead? Where's email going? Everybody was touting that years ago with regards to social. And my response has always been, well, how do you sign up for a social network? You actually use an email address. And again, I think email was having, and is going to continue to have a massive resurgence. So, if we think about email in today's world, where we're all trying to focus on inbound and attracting people to us, email is still really the critical linchpin in managing our client, prospective client, business partner, relationships. But it's also a push communication tool in a pull world. We're all trying to focus on this pull world, but email still requires you to kind of push out a lot of those communications. Now, there's some fundamental challenges with it. This is what our recipients' inboxes look like. There is all of this stuff vying for their attention. And it's not just about email in today's digital world. I think we would all agree that we're getting more email every single day. We're getting more social notifications every single day. We're getting more text messages every single day. Probably the one thing that's maybe decreasing, although past few weeks we've seen it increase, is number of phone calls. So again, we've got all of this stuff that's just really vying for our attention, and it's becoming harder and harder and harder to stand out in today's digital world. So let's talk about the last few weeks. One of the huge things that we have seen, and I'm sure all of you have, and I'm sure most of you can relate, and a lot of marketers that I talk to that are, personal friends and things like that, I ask them, why is your company sending emails about what you're doing about coronavirus? And, and the resounding response is a good one, is we're trying to inform people what we're, what we're doing, what our part is. But if you've noticed, probably a lot of them are the same. So there must have been somebody that created a template that said, send out this template to your entire audience. And the other big trend that we saw is people were just blasting it out to their entire database, whether or not these people have engaged for months, years, etc. My favorite one of these of all time is, I don't know what's worse, the Taco Bell sent out a coronavirus email, or the Taco Bell has my email. I just thought that was like so impactful, because now is not the time to run re-engagement campaigns. Or at least if you're going to run re-engagement campaigns, you've got to you just can't be blasting to your entire audience. And one of the things that we're going to touch on today is the reason why you can't is because that can affect your downstream ability to actually reach the people that want to hear from you. So that will be a topic of discussion that we touch on today. And I'll give, kind of like just a real life example that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. I'm a huge baseball fan. My kids are huge baseball fans. And really when we started the at home, work from home scenario, I felt really bad for my kids. They're 6 and 9. They were looking forward to opening day with baseball. So I said, you know what, guys, why don't you go on and you can pick a hat from fanatics.com. And everybody ordered a hat, just as kind of like a replacement for a baseball hat for opening day. And since then, which was 18 days ago, I have now gotten 30 emails between nationals.com or MLB, which is the sister company of Fanatics, and fanatics.com. And all they're doing is promoting product. How does that make me feel as an individual? One, I am a little bit of a pack rat, so that I can analyze like how much people email or say, how much email people are sending. But two, this shows zero empathy. And they have data to know that I'm not opening these emails. I'm not clicking these emails. They're immediately getting deleted. So in today's world, and in the current situation, I think that, understanding people's situations, especially financially, I'm not going to order a hat or a shirt from you every single day, especially when the fact that Major League Baseball is not even playing right now. So we're not going to games, we're not watching games, et cetera. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that personal example, and I'm sure a lot of you can ultimately relate to it. So there's a term that I really love, and I think our current environment, current situation lends itself very nicely to this. And what that means is, the term is slow down to speed up. We're all in a position now where, there's a lot of uncertainty. We're worried about our families. We're worried about our coworkers. We're worried about our friends, loved ones. We're worried about our jobs. We're worried about the economy. We're worried about where all of this is going. But one thing I can guarantee you is we will all come out of this. As long as we stay healthy, we will all come out of this. I don't have a time frame. It could be 6 months. It could be 3 years, but eventually we're going to come out of this. And so this right now, as we're all digesting everything going on around us, this is a great time to really slow down, understand, what's happening in our organization, what's happening in our customers' organizations. And as part of, slowing down, we're obviously here to talk about email. One of the things you can do is really get your email program in order. And so we're going to talk about some strategies and some tactics that you can use, today and in the near future. And by doing so, this will allow you to speed up when that time of recovery comes, rather than playing completely, reactive. If you're reactive when the economy starts to pick back up, or the business climate changes, you're already going to be left behind. You're going to be left behind all the other people that took this time to slow down in order to speed up. So there's really, in summary, I've talked to, we have hundreds of customers. I've talked to dozens and dozens over the past few weeks. We are trying to be as respectful as we can of this situation, but we're also saying, hey, we're not just going to stop trying to bring on new customers, because then then we again just add to the situation of financial uncertainty. But I thought I could summarize what we're seeing amongst our vast customer base. We are not concentrated in any specific vertical, any specific market. We are a global company, so we have customers all over the world. But there's really three types of companies or situations that we're currently seeing. One of those is kind of like, hey, we're locking down everything. We are in absolute survival mode. We're not adding anything from an expense perspective. In fact, we're looking to cut every single possible cost that we can. For example, an organization that would fall into that might be a travel agency. And so with these types of organizations, you've got to have a lot of empathy for their situation. And if you want to come out, let's say you sell to travel agencies or trade show organizers, et cetera, you got to have a lot of empathy for their situation. And you really should be thinking about taking your foot off the gas with regards to any type of sales efforts to them. Hey, in these types of companies, it's more around, what can we be doing to help? Is there anything we can be doing to help? And providing them with educational resources. The second type of situation that we're seeing is, hey, we're kind of taking a step back, and this is a time that we're using to reevaluate our current systems and improve our operational efficiencies. I think everybody's going to have to, we've lived in a time of the economy was just, it was roaring, and we were just trying to move so fast that a lot of our operational efficiencies just weren't there. We were just throwing more money, throw more money at the, at this thing. It's doing something. So just keep throwing more and more money at. So we're seeing some organizations say, we're really trying to understand and see where we can improve operational efficiencies. These are companies that you really want to lean into because when they come out of this, and their climate, their internal climate changes, these are the folks that are really gonna pick up and invest very quickly into any type of systems or services that can really help them drive more out of what they're already doing. And then the third is and we've certainly talked to numerous companies like this. We're getting after. We're not cutting anything. We're just gonna, we're gonna market and sell through this. And lucky enough for organizations like that, they have typically either a diverse customer set, or their customer set has not been, from a business perspective, has not been severely impacted. And these are also organizations that you really want to lean into. These are companies that your deals are probably, if you're already working with them, your opportunities are not going to be lost. They may take a little bit longer now, but these are the opportunities that are still really live, and people are still spending money, and they're really investing in their sales and marketing efforts. So when I talk about slowing down, adding to this, the first thing that you can be doing, and again, as I mentioned, email is such a prevalent marketing channel, and it's going to become even more important as ad budgets get cut. Almost all ad budgets are being cut or repurposed unless you are a work from home technology like either Zoom or Ring Central or Slack, which I think we would all agree that, gosh, we're just like, when we're online, all we're seeing is Slack, Ring Central, Zoom, ads. But for most organizations, ad budgets are being cut or repurposed. The same thing goes with trade shows. So how do I sell? How do I market in that environment? It's with email. And so really focusing on your email strategy can have a huge impact, not only for what you're trying to do today, but also, again, when we come out into that speed up period. One of the things that we're recommending to all of our customers is go through all of your campaigns, all of your newsletters, your nurture campaigns, your drip campaigns, your activation campaigns, and make sure that they reflect, or at least identify which campaigns could use a little bit of love with regards to the current situation that we're all living in. So again, this comes back to that kind of slow down so that I can take a look at those in order to speed up. Invest in, really engagement and activation. What does this mean? Are there processes that you can be optimizing to get more out of what you're already doing, or what you already have? Let's face it, we all have, or at least a lot of us over the past few years, have amassed larger and larger and larger databases of leads, but we were so focused on, let's get these leads pushed through the funnel as fast as we can. And, the other people, yeah, we'll throw them in a drip campaign. We'll see if they wake up, all that. So we've all amassed these large, massive databases that, quite frankly, there's a lot of gold nuggets in there. I'll give you for instance. I was going through, and we're doing this internally. I was going through the last year's worth of leads, and I noticed this this person that had come in and signed up for our monthly newsletter, and every single month they were just ultra engaged in the newsletter. And so I sent them, I just went through and sent them a personalized email and said, hey, I would love to chat. If you're open to it. They are a technology company that probably is thriving in this time because they have to do with VPN access, etc. And I actually have a meeting with them this afternoon. And so again, we've all amassed these large databases, and now's the time to really focus on engaging those databases and activating them. And some ideas, obviously, are there virtual seminars you can do? Are there webinars you can do? Is there lead scoring that you can do to try and illuminate some of those potential leads? I mean, obviously Digital 22 is phenomenal at that type of work as far as like illuminating those leads so that you can better focus your efforts. And then finally, from a slowdown perspective, slowing down does not mean, cutting everything. You really can't cut your way to success. You've got to, you've got to position yourself to thrive when we come out of this. And while it's a bit of a biased comment, I believe reinvesting in your email program can have a tremendous impact, again, not only in the short term, but also in the long term. So let's get into some of the more tactical details. When we think about a typical email strategy, more or less, this is what it looks like. I acquire somebody's email address through, a trade show that we attended. Again, unfortunately, we're not going to see those for a while. Maybe through my website, blog, etc. Inbound, outbound, pay-per-click. Again, everybody's pay-per-click. Most organizations' pay-per-click budgets are decreasing. Maybe through social advertising or word of mouth over social. And then finally, list service. We are in the camp that we don't really recommend using list services, but everybody's got, they've got their own opinion on that. Maybe we enrich the data that we capture with some third-party data. We create content. Maybe we do a little bit of segmentation on industry, location, and title, and then we just blast emails. Or maybe we've set up some, some more, nurture campaigns, drip campaigns to try and activate our audience. But in a lot of instances, we're still just blasting a lot of email to our subscriber base. But what's one of the problems with that blasting approach? Marketers are sending far too much email. And look, I get it. It's not always the marketer's fault. It's a lot of executives' faults, or a lot of leadership A lot of the fault lands on leadership shoulders. And one of the reasons why we send so much email is because the viewpoint is, hey, email doesn't, I've invested in a product like HubSpot or Marketo or MailChimp or, Pardot, and it doesn't really cost me anything to send email. So let's just send more email. And we hear this over and over and over again. But this again leads to that initial problem, which I showed, which was, hey, this is our recipients' inboxes. It's all this stuff vying for their attention. What we do is we treat email like a commodity, and then therefore we get commodity-like results. Our opening click rates, are consistently dropping as we add more people into the funnel, as we send more email. All of those things that kind of happen. And what I always try to remind people of is where the real cost of email comes in is the attention on the other side of it. Your recipient's attention is not free. And so if you kind of think about your email program and that approach, it can have, it can lead you to create better content, more empathetic content, maybe changing some ways that you're doing things versus trying to just, kind of game the system to get as much as you can out of that commodity. So from a volume perspective, it's not just marketers are sending too much email. I mean, salespeople, with all of these sequences that people are sending, and the fact that I have all these tools that I can blast out 500 emails to 500 people in a single day, from a sales perspective, is just adding to the noise. Our colleagues are sending too much email. Thank goodness for Slack and Microsoft Teams, because some of that is actually now starting to be curtailed via Slack. And then friends are still sending too much email. How many times do we get caught on a chain where it's like, oh my gosh, like everybody is chiming in on this email? And again, all of these things are just adding to the overall noise of the situation and adding to that volume problem. So people are changing. When we run into stressful situations as human beings, we naturally change our process. The inbox is somewhat of a stressful place. I am very doubtful that most of the folks, if not everybody here today, wakes up in the morning and like, I can't wait to check my email. We may do it on our mobile devices, but it's not like we're excited to go check our email. And that's why tools like, Clutter, inbox pause, where I can pause my inbox so that, while I'm trying to get something, accomplished during the day, I can just simply say, hey, I don't want to be interrupted. I'm just going to completely pause this thing. And also why the email service providers, and we'll get into this in a minute, are literally waging a war on spam. And so we'll get into that, because that comes a little bit more into tactics. Work from home distractions. I think all of us, our schedules are changing, our patterns are changing. We personally have little kids at home. I'm sure many of you do, and that does not make the situation, any easier to get through. All of the communication coming at us all day, every day. Up until recently, mobile has been obviously skyrocketing as far as usage when it comes to email. Although over the past few weeks, one of the trends that we've identified, as well as many others, is that the trend in mobile reading, mobile opening, mobile clicking has decreased dramatically because people are, on their laptops at home versus using their mobile devices to really read their email. And then in addition to that, up until recently, especially, I know the culture very well here in the United States. I'm not as familiar with some of the cultures in the UK or in Europe. But one of the things that a lot of US-based companies, the government does, is they send people to productivity training. And the number one thing they teach in productivity training is don't be a prisoner of your inbox. You should really only be checking your inbox once or twice a day, maybe for an hour. Get through what you can get through and forget about the rest. I can't tell you how many executives that I talk to that say, Like I literally, yeah, I might be sitting there scrolling through my mobile device, you know, in between meetings, etc. But I try to spend, you know, an hour or two a day on email. I just delete the rest. Like if it's important enough, you'll email me tomorrow. But as sales and marketing people, we can't just consistently pepper you, or at least we shouldn't um, pepper you in your inbox. So all of that being said, we still have to market, we still have to sell. And here's a lot of problems or challenges that email marketers, you know, go through. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we'll talk about some of the tactics that you can deploy today and going forward to alleviate or remove some of the risk that's associated with these different pain points. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to go forward and how you're going to master your email strategy. I've got a couple of things a couple of tactics to review today. I would encourage everybody when, you know, if you can, when we walk away from today, hopefully the goal is you can take some of these and put them into practice relatively quickly. If you cannot, I know this is not a commercial for Digital 22. They have experts. They can absolutely help you with this. We've seen it time and time again in our partnership with them. So again, I'll go through each one of these individually. One of the biggest misnomers that you know, marketers have, that executive leadership has, and again, this comes back to treating email as a commodity. Google, Microsoft, and corporate email systems are waging a war on spam. And I'm not talking about your professional spammers that are trying to steal your credit card information. I'm talking about legitimate marketers that have permission-based marketing to send their subscribers email, but that those people are not engaging with those emails. Now, HubSpot, Marketo, Pardot, MailChimp, they do their customers a little bit of a disservice, but they, quite frankly, they don't really have a choice. Everybody comes, I can't tell you how many companies we talk to that says, Mike, I don't have a delivery problem. HubSpot tells me 99.8% of my emails were delivered. All that means is 99.8% of your emails did not bounce. That means those emails were received by the receiving server. So Google, Microsoft, or the corporate email system actually received the email. It did not bounce. It was a valid email address. But delivery point 2 is, did it make it to the actual inbox or to the spam folder? And here's a little bit of a scary thought. You know, again, 99.8% of my emails got delivered. Let's just say 100% of them got delivered. On average, 1 in 5 emails don't make it to the inbox. So that means you're already starting off with a 20% haircut on average for emails that you're sending. Now, again, this is a little bit of a scary thought, but there are actions that you can take to remove as many of the risks that are associated with inboxing as possible. And the first way of doing this is to understand how these receiving servers work. Much like in our personal lives, and this is a good way that I explain it to senior level leadership that just says, let's just send more email. Let's just send an email to our entire database. We need more leads. We need more this. Send an entire email to our database about what we're doing about COVID-19. What they need to understand is, much like in our lives, in our personal lives, where we have a credit score that determines our credit worthiness and how much a bank is willing to loan us, we also have what's called really a sender score or a domain reputation with our email program. And what that's looking at is, you know, how much does Google and Microsoft and corporate spam systems believe that your email is actually going to be engaged with and read? Is it something of value for my subscribers? And so there's a couple of things that are super critical to making sure that you're doing all the right things with your sender reputation so that your score stays high. Just like with a credit score, the number one thing you can do to keep your credit score high is pay your bills and pay your bills on time. There are some very simple things that you can do with regards to your sender score or your sender reputation. The first of those is making sure that your domain is authenticated correctly. If you're using HubSpot, pretty simple to do. If you're using Marketo, pretty simple to do. MailChimp. I mean, all of these email platforms provide you the capability of making sure that your authentication is set up correctly. And really what that's doing is you're connecting your domain to say, I take responsibility for the email that I'm sending. And therefore, hey, Google, hey, Microsoft, again, this is me and this is my content. The second piece is the number one thing that Google and Microsoft, other than authentication, are looking at is how much are people engaging with your emails. We'll get to this in a minute. How much are they opening? How much are they clicking? How much are they forwarding? How much are they replying to? Bounce rates, unsubscribes, and spam complaints. Lucky for us, HubSpot and most modern day marketing automation systems automatically suppress that stuff out. So your hard bounces, unsubscribes, and spam complaints, once those happen, they just automatically get suppressed. I think HubSpot is on the really good end of this, where they have what they call global hard bounces, which means if, I believe the number is 4, if somebody hard bounces in 4 or more portals across their customer base, then they'll put them into what's called a hard bounce state, or a global hard bounce, and then no customer can actually send to them. Because HubSpot is also worried about their sending IPs, all of those things. List cleanliness can play a huge factor. Content filters, this used to be really important, where people would say, hey, don't send emails with things like free in the subject line. Content filters are not nearly as important as they used to be. Unless you're selling Viagra through emails, you shouldn't really have to be worrying about content triggering spam systems anymore. That's where that audience engagement has really taken over for the content filters, which were used 7, 8, 10 years ago. In fact, Yahoo was the last one to really start moving away from content as a filtering mechanism. Gray mail and email are a thing. If you're not familiar with those terms, gray mail is effectively, and we all receive this day in and day out. Gray mail is email that we've technically opted in to receive, but we don't really want. Maybe I wanted to just read an ebook. Maybe I wanted to order a hat, and I opted in, and the next thing you know, Fanatics is going to send me 30 emails, 40 emails a month. I opted in to receive it, but I don't really want it. And then ill mail is illy timed email, or email is also email that is sent at too high a frequency. And then audience fatigue. No matter what, we all at some point get fatigued of a brand. I love a number of organizations' content, but do I really need a blog from them every single day, every single week? They would just be much better well served identifying those signals and start sending me like a really highly curated bi-weekly or monthly newsletter than sending me an email every single day, because every single day I've trained my brain just to go ahead and delete it. So let's talk about authentication real quick. This is a very simple thing to go check. I'm going to focus on HubSpot here. Go send yourself a not a preview email from HubSpot, but go in and send yourself, if you're using HubSpot, send yourself a real email. Just clone an email, send it to yourself as a recipient of one, just like you would for everybody. And what you'll see here is, if you have, I'm using Google as my email service provider, so the 7cents.com is backed by Google G Suite. If I see via mail, and it'll be like mail.hubspot.com, there's 2 things that are apparent here. One, if you sell to marketers, or you sell to people that really understand, like even technical people, this immediately is a visible sign that this is a marketing email. Even if you've used plain text emails and you've done a really good job with personalization tokens, et cetera, I can immediately see that this is a marketing email. I'll give you a real life example. This happened to me a couple weeks ago. I got probably the best personalized email from a CEO for a ebook that I had signed up for. And this is a company I'm interested in. They have great sales technology. And I was like, wow, this guy's really good. And he said, hey, Mike, on my commute home on the train, I was looking through our last couple leads, and saw your company pop up. I went to your website, checked it out, very interesting. What brought you some interest about our company? I was like, man, this is really good. But then I immediately recognized that it was sent by Marketo because they had not sent their DKIM signature. And so this can have an impact on the visibility, but also where it's even more important is this is how Google and Microsoft start building a domain reputation on you. Because if you do not set at least your DKIM, then what can happen is you get associated with everybody else that's on HubSpot's shared infrastructure. And again, it's not just HubSpot, it's Marketo, everybody that's out there. You get associated with everybody that's using HubSpot's shared infrastructure. And so if there are bad actors that are spamming their audience, et cetera, because your DKIM is not set, your domain is associated with everybody else. So again, this is a very simple tactic that you can employ today to ensure the long-term deliverability or long-term success of your overall email program. I always encourage people to, and again, this is a small tactic, but go take a look at your from address. Are you using a no reply address? Are you using a, just a generic no newsletters that, blah, 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 or an xyzdomain.com? It's okay to send from a brand, but when you have no reply, or something that's like do not reply or something similar, what it's saying is, hey, it's okay for me as an organization to invade your inbox, but it's not okay for you to communicate back with me. So we're not using email the way that it was meant to be, which is really a two-way communication channel. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face. And we send a monthly newsletter to thousands of people, and nothing brings a bigger smile to my face when people reply to it. And you know what? I get a lot of replies to it. And people are like, hey, we forgot about you, would love to chat, see how things are going, anything new with you, those types of things. Now, I get it. Some organizations, especially as today we've been asked to do more with less, there are technologies that will allow you to auto filter, and we'll touch on this, auto filter human replies so that you can automate that process and route them to to an appropriate rep. One of the other things that we recommend doing is if you're sending marketing emails and you know who the account rep is, make it come from them. I can guarantee you if I come and downloaded an ebook and I'm engaging with an email and it's coming from your sales rep and I reply, your sales rep is going to love you like no other, because he just got a lead, back into his system versus you having to look at it, determine its worthiness to pass along. Preview text, again, just another small tactic. It's super critical. It just, it's that text at the beginning of an email that you just put together to give you a highlight of what the email is about. Use this as your advantage. And so that's what you can see here is, save 50% up to Mizuno. I know what this email is about now. Do I want to engage with it? Make it, make it just as compelling as the email subject line. Does list size still matter? I would argue in a very, very big way, it does not at all. And this becomes even more true today. The quality of your list or the quality of your database, the quality of your subscribers matters far more than the quantity. When you have large quantities, it's harder to do personalization. You're spending more money. It's harder to quantify, all of those things. And there's some things that you can do that are very easy. Obviously, remove hard bounces, unsubscribe, spam complaints from your systems. But one of the biggest impacts that you can have, and again, this comes back into that domain reputation, is prune out your non-engagers. Maybe start small. And I like to highlight this example. We went to a customer and we said, hey, let's take your inactive audience. And this screenshot is actually from about 2 years ago, and we built some new processes, but this really highlights it. Let's take your inactive audience, and their inactive audience was obviously around 13,000 people. And let's just send them an email. Like, we're going to send them the same email that we're going to send to your active audience. And look at the engagement rates that they saw. Typically what we find is your engaged audience is producing about 90% of your results, and it performs anywhere from 10 to 20x what your inactive audience. So 1,000 to 2,000% higher than what your inactive audience engagement rates are. Now, the other thing to look at with this example, if I just sent an email to 13,000 people and only 188 people opened it and 45 people clicked it, Google and Microsoft are going to recognize that. And that's going to continue to ding you every single, even if your list is 100,000 and 13,000 of them are completely inactive, Google and Microsoft are going to, they're just going to constantly, that's going to be a ding against you in your sender reputation, domain reputation. It's kind of like, again, think about it as every single month you're paying your bills 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, and you just do it consistently. That's going to have that downstream effect on you. So you can start off small by pruning those non-engagers. The Digital 22 team has a lot of, again, expertise around this. Maybe do one last kind of last-ditch special offer, or maybe you can run an AdWord or Facebook targeting campaign against them. I know we're running up against here on time, and I want to save a few minutes for questions. But an ABM strategy, this is an old, in my opinion, approach to marketing, but it's new. And the reason why I say it's new is there's a lot of really advanced technologies that you can now use. HubSpot is obviously leaning heavily into ABM. Marketo has been leaning heavily into ABM. And if you're in B2B, account-based marketing is really the wave of the future. But one thing you really have to think about is, an account-based marketing email delivery strategy. Much like we talk about sender reputation, domain reputation, if you have, say, 10 or 15 people at a specific xyz.com, which is an account that you're trying to focus on, and marketing is sending them, all 10 or 15 people an email, well, with a blast approach, all 10 or 15 people's emails are going out at the same time, which can ultimately trip a spam system. And then those emails are going into spam or being quarantined altogether. So you've really got to think about, how am I going to deliver my email to, if I have an email or if I have an account-based marketing strategy. Social retargeting, a great way to use some of those non-engagers. If you have an active audience, like if I'm active in your email program, why are you going to spend money trying to reach me, in Google search and LinkedIn audiences and Facebook audiences? I'm already engaged with you. Use these tools to reach those people that are inactive or more passive in your engagement programs. Don't spend the money on your active audience. Use the channel that's already working for you, that has a lower cost and a much higher ROI. And the last kind of 3 slides that I've put together in really trying to help organizations and the current situation is, these are some things that personally I subscribe to and I read and I follow. These are folks that I have followed for years. I greatly respect their research. They are very data-driven marketers. Um, so Tim Watson being one, Delaquist, Only Influencers is an organization that's really just focused on email marketing professionals. Um, and then we also have a monthly newsletter that we send that's called Everything Email, and it's just like it sounds. It's everything about email. It's tools, it's tactics, it's articles that really caught our attention, it's research, and also we end it with really a number of jobs that our friends are looking to hire for. And so if there's people in our community that we can help find jobs, we love to do that. And then finally, here's a couple of ungated. These used to be gated, meaning you have to fill out a form to get access to them. But in today's day and age, like, let's just give out everything that we can ungated. And if people find interest in them or have questions with them, they can reach out to Digital 22, or they'll, just reach out to us directly. Now, very quickly on this, the email marketing ROI calculator. This is a tool that you can use to really go to leadership and executive management and trying to explain to them why you need to be leaning into your email marketing program, why you need to be investing more time, more energy into it. There's a lot of things where people just think, hey, email marketing says it's a 38 to 1 or 42 to 1. For every dollar I spend, I get $42 out, I get $38 out. I have no idea how they came up with those calculations. But this is a calculator that you can use to really look at what is email meaning to your organization? What is the ROI that it's producing? And quite frankly, even if you're getting a 3, 4, 5x return on your investment, why wouldn't you lean into it? If I could put $1 into an ATM and get $5 back, why wouldn't I do it? And then we've put together an email optimization. And so the HubSpot one, we have a general one, which is if you do not use HubSpot, this is one that you can use. The HubSpot one has a little bit more automation in it. And then we've also put together an email optimization ROI calculator. This potentially highlights what you're losing to emails going to spam, and what taking an optimization approach could mean for your overall email program. And then finally, if you want to have a little bit of fun, we've put together an email knowledge quiz with it has some great information in it. So go test your email knowledge. Hopefully you learn a couple things from there, and takes you forward. Tools you can use. I'm not going to go through these again. I know we're super tight on time. But again, they will all be here as a resource when the slides are shared. And then finally, a couple of calls to action. Again, when it comes to today's day and age, and I don't think this has really changed, but we've got to be showing empathy. Just blasting our entire database about what we're doing for COVID-19, unless we do something for healthcare providers or grocery deliverers, groceries providers, etc. We really need to be segmenting our lists and thinking about those things. Focus on advocacy. Every single time, and I personally write our monthly newsletter, which takes hours upon hours every single month. What I try to think about is, how would I get somebody to forward this to somebody else? Or how do I get them to reply to this email? Make this a two-way communication, so that advocacy, if you take that approach when you're writing, it can have a huge impact. Clean your lists. And then finally, and I genuinely mean this, I covered quite a lot today, some of it in very high level detail, some of it I tried to cover in a little bit more detail. If there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate in reaching out to me. Ricky and the entire Digital 22 team is fantastic. They know how to get a hold of me. Even if it's nothing related to what 7 Cents does, but you have questions about your email program, hey, this is the time to help. And I and my team want to do our part. So please don't hesitate in reaching out. And with that said, Ricky, I am sorry for taking up almost the entire hour.
Hey, that's what you're here for, Mike. Thank you very much for doing that. A fantastic hour. I know I personally got a lot of takeaways from that. 2 or 3 things I jotted down were definitely reviewing your automation sequences just to make sure they have context for today. I know we fell foul of that in the first couple of days ourselves. Our grey mail automation sequence, the last email on that, the subject title was "This is the End," which probably isn't a subject line you want to be getting in your inbox today. So I'm glad we noticed that quite early on and stopped it, but it's a really good warning to anyone who's got automation going. Go and check your content of those. Loved your quote about the cost of email. It's not free, it's you're paying with the user's attention. I think that's a really good way to sell it to people and a good way to keep in mind. And then the last one, it's something we've learned a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, is don't get comfortable just in pure numbers from an email perspective. Your list size, really understand that engagement of the audience and treat them differently based on that. It's so key to getting good results. I know we've got a couple of minutes, so what we'll do is we'll wrap up. We'll send these slides around. It's got all the resources, all the followers, all the tools that Mike's just mentioned. And then when you get the email with all of these things on, hit reply, and any questions you've got for Mike, we'll forward them on over to Mike and the team. Like you said, anything about email or anything you feel Mike can help with, we'll pop over to those guys. And then just a reminder for everyone, back here tomorrow, same time, same link. We've got Pete from DataBox. Pete's going to help us understand a bit more about our data in general, what metrics matter right now, how we track them, how we improve them. So I'm looking forward to that one too. So hopefully I'll see everyone back here again tomorrow. And just thanks again to Mike for his time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, thank you for everybody for their time, and stay safe, stay healthy. Say a prayer for everybody, and we're all in this together. So
yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mike. Speak to you soon.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.